final game of the Dueling Goats lesson for Magnus. And Magnus played this game with the white pieces against Hans Herstad in 2003, 1 year before I was born. And here we go. Roy Lopez opening. And Black chases the bishop. Magnus solidifies his central pawn. Magnus plays c3. He is preparing pawn to d4. Plays pawn to h3. The knight chases the bishop. And notice this is just a piece of chess decision making that I'd like to call your attention to. Magnus actually uses a tempo to save his bishop. He's not going to give up the bishop pair for no reason. Black is trying to take, but the bishop pair is a valuable thing. It's a valuable advantage, and you don't want to just give that up when you don't have to. So Magnus is going to try to keep that on the board. Black wants to grip the center with pawn to c5, maybe starting to claim a space advantage on the queen side. But Magnus wants to grip the center too, and he plays pawn to d4. Magnus knows the importance of owning the best real estate on the chessboard. Black develops the queen, white develops the knight, and Magnus plays pawn to d5. Black was kind of asking for it when he brought the knight like this. Now Magnus has the center, and 13 moves in. They're still playing a book opening. I'm going to show you this Lichess Tools thing. Every move has the book icon. They're still playing a book opening 13 moves in, and there are 340 games with this position in the Lichess Masters database. So you can see that number there. It's a very common position, deep book opening prep. And, the main advantage that I see in this position is white's space advantage in the center. And the engine says white is about +1 here. Pawn to a4, rook a7. The knight goes back. And this move might look strange, but it's actually quite smart. It's beginning to solve the
It really
problem of,
doesn't seem strange because then the knight will go to g3, protecting the queen and making the knights right together.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's good if it doesn't seem strange because yeah,
And
it shows you got a good
attacking the king
understanding.
side.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, very true. Yeah, Magnus is beginning to solve the problem of his like two bad pieces. The bishop is undeveloped, and this knight has no future here. Like he's not able to go anywhere really. So the knight's going to have to reroute, and so he needed to improve both of these pieces, and that's what he's going to do. And it's important to realize that just because a piece is developed, like this knight, doesn't mean it's good. You might need to reposition it as the position changes to ensure that it actually has a future. So that's what he does. He moves the bishop with tempo, and now he plays knight to g3. Magnus taking lessons from David. The previously passive knight and bishop are aggressively placed on the king side, perhaps ready to help with an attack. This is good. Knight to h2. Bishop goes back. It's a bit of a slow repositioning game. Knight to b6. A takes, bishop to d3, and we are hitting this pawn here. So it needs to be defended. That's exactly what black does. We trade the rooks. Magnus plays queen to e2. Now we're attacking this pawn, continuing to make threats. Black defends it, improving the knight. Bishop goes back, knight to the side, bishop back, rook over to the open file. Very good move. And now Magnus plays this move, queen to e3, and black better watch out because Magnus has three pieces eyeing h6, and the knight could jump there on the next move. And then if the knight jumps there, the knight can take here, and maybe king takes, queen h6 on the next move. We've infiltrated into the king side position. So this could be an idea if black doesn't do anything. And indeed, the best engine move here is knight to h6. But instead, Magnus plays rook to f1, preparing to support the f-pawn push, getting another piece into the attack, which is a very good idea. Knight to h6 here. And would you trade knights here if you were black?
It gets the queen very active next to your king.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too at first glance when I see that. I would not really want to. Um, the thing to notice though is that after the queen gets active next to the king, like you say, is there any follow-up? Like the king goes here, and then does white have anything at all after this check?
Maybe a potential mate
Yeah,
later in the game.
maybe perhaps, yeah, it could be. It could be later in the game. But like the pawns keep the knight out, and white doesn't really have like the pieces and that can do anything immediately. So there is actually not
But it
like a
doesn't
ton of
have to be
danger.
immediately. It can be a slow game.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, it could be in the future. But I would argue that black would be totally fine here if he traded knights, and it is actually the best move according to the engine. So I'll show you this. Knight trades, queen takes, and the check might look a bit scary, but again, in chess, you always have to look beyond one scary looking move or pretty looking move and see if there's any actual substance after that move. Because even though this is a nice looking check, he has nothing after it. And, he has chances to attack, like David says. But the key thing is because it's not immediate, black has a really nice maneuvering idea. Magnus can't do anything more than just pushing this pawn. And then black is in time to get the queen back. And now, he can either trade queens or force the white queen to go away. And when the queen goes away, there's really not much attack left. So I want you guys to remember this idea. If you have time to do so, when you're defending, get your queen back and offer a queen trade when your opponent is attacking you with their queen. Because either you trade the queens and nullify the threat mostly by doing that, or you make them retreat their queen, which would also nullify their threat. And so, yeah, that's a good way to keep things safe. So, black would be completely okay to trade the knights, and that would be less dangerous than what he did, letting the pieces stay on the board. Um, yeah, Magnus plays pawn to f4, queen takes, and yeah, black's only move to be okay here is king takes h6. How do you think white would meet that? What would white do after king takes h6? So one thing to notice after black takes this knight, he's walking into a pin. Queen would be pinning the knight. So what do you think white would play? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I did show the engine. But yeah, I'll just tell you the move here. It is pawn to h4. So that would be the idea. And this is black's only move here. Rook to f8, h takes, and white has to find this move, queen to h4 check, or else black is better. So this is such a sharp position. Takes with the bishop, and black ends up surviving this position just fine. So there we go. That's that line. And in the game, black played instead of king takes and inviting h4 like we saw, black plays this move. Bishop takes h3. Is this a bishop sacrifice? Can white just take it? Very good. Glad to see people saying no. Correct. Yeah. If white takes,
No.
knight takes. Correct. Yeah. It'd be knight takes h3, queen and king are both under attack. So you can't do that. Instead, Magnus played this. Black went back with the bishop. And so he basically was able to get a pawn, but he's still under a lot of pressure. And Magnus gives up a pawn with pawn to e5. Do you think this is a good move? Do you feel like white should be crushing here? Or is this like super dubious?
I think that's actually a really good move. Because the rook gets an open file, the knight's protected, and with the rook on the open file, it can pretty easily attack the king.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like if black takes like this is giving a lot of space to the rook. And what else does this pawn open up? There's another piece that this pawn move really helps quite a lot. One piece of whites became significantly happier. Yes, the c2 bishop, very good. Yeah, it's true. The eval bar is a fairly big hint as well. White is doing quite well here. Yeah, I like this move. It opens up the bishop. That's a big part of what this move does. And it basically invites another piece into the attack. And so, a pawn sack is really nothing when you're opening up lines to attack and you have so many pieces in the attack already. Like Magnus arguably has 6 pieces in this attack, which should be more than enough to force some kind of win. He simply must have something here. So, with that being the case, the sacrifice to bring in another piece makes sense. Being a couple pawns down doesn't matter if you have so many pieces in the attack that you're like practically guaranteed to have some kind of tactic or attacking play here. So Magnus plays the best move in this position, knight to h5 check. What a find by Magnus. Sacrificing the knight, black takes, and it is mate in 3 from here. Can you find the mate that Magnus found? I'll give you guys some time. Try to find it. Very good, Oliver. Yeah, well spotted. It does indeed start with queen takes g6. Very, very impressive. The queen sacrifice, pawn takes, rook f7 check, and wherever the king goes, whether he takes or doesn't take, it's rook takes h7 with a checkmate. It's a beautiful, beautiful attacking sequence. Black ends the game up 13 points in material, yet checkmated. What an attacking sequence by the 13-year-old Magnus. And by the way, in case you're wondering, here's how the game could have ended if Black had played the best move. After Magnus's knight sack, Black's best move, excuse me, is actually king to h8, and then bishop takes, f takes, queen to g3, sacrificing the knight, because if he takes, white comes in like this, and that would be bad news. Bishop goes here, rook takes, and we are threatening to take the queen and to take on e5. Black's best move is to give up the queen if he doesn't want to give up the queen, if he tries to like save it. Queen takes h5, and then rook to f8 is going to be a double check and a checkmate. Very, very nasty stuff. Lots of attacking play. So yeah, very, very nice attacking line here. And so I want you guys to remember, don't be afraid to reposition your develop pieces if you don't have any plan or any future for them. And don't be afraid to sacrifice to set up a situation where you have a ton of pieces and an attack against the enemy king. With 4 or more pieces in the attack, it pretty much has to be good, especially if the king lacks defenders. And also remember the huge defensive weapon of offering a queen trade whenever possible to drive away the enemy queen, which is the most dangerous attacker. And finally, don't decide if a line is good or bad just because of one nice looking or scary looking move. This is a mistake that I'll make sometimes in my own games. Like I'll throw away a line completely and just assume it's bad because the opponent gets one intimidating check that looks bad for me. But I have to keep looking deeper and see that if that check actually leads to anything. Because looks can be deceiving in chess. And if you want to get to the next level, you have to think more deeply than, oh, it's a check, that looks good. You have to know if it actually leads to something or not. So does anyone have any questions about the game?